Almighty Emperor, it's the weekend again. Guess I need to do another video. But what? I asked myself as I dug through my library looking for something to talk about this week. There was the option to talk about Dark Souls Remastered and complete the trilogy, or maybe mark myself for death by discussing why I don't think Bloodborne is all that good. But as I dove deeper and deeper into the well of games, I saw one I picked up a few years ago, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr, which I had originally bought to write a review about for my Go Nowhere Facebook page. Now we're here on my Go Nowhere YouTube channel, so why not use it for the thing I bought it for, just in video form. I'm making a video review, that was the point of that. That was a messy sentence. So yeah, again, we're covering a game from a few years back. I guess that's just what my channel is now. I mean, the only upcoming release I think will be any sort of interesting game. Another messy sentence, I'm doing great. Will be Elden Ring, so we've got ages yet before I actually buy a proper game to do a proper review about. You know, not just some random indie trash I want to laugh at. Now, Warhammer 40k is richly deep with lore and not easily grasped by the layman. I used to be big into Warhammer and even I can't tell you what the hell is going on, so I won't be discussing the lore here today. If you'd like more of a sense of what's going on in this world, I recommend Arch on YouTube. They've got a great selection of detailed videos that you can look into. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check them out. My whole explanation of Warhammer 40k is space Nazis shoot aliens in war to see who can be biggest jerk. Not 100% accurate and giving away my generation a tad. People my age love using the Nazi comparison because we're creatively bankrupt and have only the bad guys from a war that ended 70 years ago as our reference point. Though, be fair, Nazis were, and still are, a bunch of dicks, so... Anyway, enough of the pre-ramble, let's get on with the video. Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr follows an Imperial Inquisitor on their galaxy-wide hunt for a derelict spacecraft, all the whilst they do battle with the forces of chaos and the Tyranid hives in the galaxy that's perpetually at war. An Inquisitor is basically just a Warhammer human who looks out for the naughties in the human empire. That's a basic, unrepresentative description, but then again, the guys who write down the lore for Warhammer have story diarrhea and don't know when to stop. So if I do have to describe the lore, I will use the most basic description I can think of. You travel across the stars in a commandeered trader ship. The trader lady on board is apparently using the Inquisitor to clear her names of crimes against the Imperium, whilst the Inquisitor uses the ship on their hunt for the Martyr spacecraft. The game is a top-down shooter which has elements of a dungeon crawler, though I guess a loot and shoot works better here, what with all the guns. I said in my Borderlands review that I don't typically like such games, ones where you are swapping out weapons every 8 seconds for new ones, with each weapon being slightly worse than the last. However, Inquisitor Martyr doesn't make quite the same mistake. Yes, you get loaded down with a ton of loot, but you don't feel the need to replace your guns and armour every 8 seconds, so it's quite nice. You can get used to using stuff. Hell, I bought guns and armour in this game and they lasted me ages before I needed to upgrade, so I could reliably use my equipment for a long time and just sell off all the other junk for a handsome profit. I wish my real-life bank account looked as good as my in-game one. The game is based around going from planet to planet, doing a mission which usually involves killing 3 of something or mashing a few keyboards and then moving on to repeat the cycle. The loose plot about the Martyr hangs overhead, but there are so many side missions it's easy to forget about that entirely, and I often did. The main story didn't really intrigue me, though I've had trouble in the past with Warhammer 40k stories. Mostly when they asked me to root for the humans. Humans in Warhammer are some of the most entitled and violent beings I've ever seen, so at least they're true to their real-life counterparts. But this doesn't for an interesting character make. There are exceptions though. Captain Titus from Space Marine comes to mind. He wasn't overly deep, but he had some character to him. If I'm being honest, I'd rather a Warhammer game where you play as one of the orcs. They at least seem to be having fun, and they've got tons of personality. At least in Dawn of War 2 and Dark Crusade you can play as the orcs, that's quite nice. You know, you get to play as the guys who are actually in it for the fun. Do you know what else I'd enjoy? A remaster of Fire Warrior from the PS2 days where you play as one of the Warhammer Tau Fire Warriors and you just go shooting things. That was a lot of fun. I liked that game, that was tight. Sorry, what was my point again? Something humans being boring, I think that was my point. Anyway, moving on. So the question is, do I like Inquisitor Martyr? You know what? Yeah, I do. It's surprisingly fun, and even back when I first started playing it, I enjoyed it, even if I did sort of forget about it for a long time. I had less will to play back then, mostly because I was getting up at 3 AM for work in the morning, so my whole life was basically me just being too tired to do anything. Still am, but that's more than depression these days. Martyr controls well, I never had any issues with it. I did hate that it uses the controller speaker for sound sometimes, which I quickly put the stop to. Games can stop that shit. The controller speaker is stupid and doesn't need to exist, and neither does the PS5. The game uses the typical Warhammer visual style. Almost every model and icon are richly detailed, with many environments having this nice gothic architecture thing, which I adore. I like the combat as well. It has a pleasant pace to it, and there is something endlessly fun about watching your shots blow enemies to pieces because Warhammer weapons don't piss about. The game can quickly ramp up the challenge, so you need to find the best tools to handle situations. For me, it was the las gun. That was the best weapon, because it was really good at carving through armor and you can fire a concentrated beam of laser, which is cool. Lasers are cool. I then use a bolter as my secondary weapon, which is basically just a high-powered assault assault rifle, and I'd use it to pick off the enemies that survived my laser assault. There are multiple classes. I played as a Death Cult assassin lady, mostly because one of her armor sets she gets can spawn 2 clones of her that can fight by her side. A handy tool when you're facing an army by yourself, made handier when they spawn with your current equipment, so I could just switch to my bolter, spawn the clones, and then switch back to my lasgun and we'd be set for any horde. The maps aren't overly large, they've got a few crevices that hold treasure, but you'll rarely need to spend more than 10 minutes in a mission, which I think is grand. There are tons of really similar missions, but I think having that brief respite between them where you go back to the ship and sell all the stuff you found and gear up before you deploy again means they don't get dull too fast. I do have complaints. The overall narrative I found to be easy to forget, and I don't like the characters. Partly that's the voice acting though. Usually Warhammer games have decent enough voice acting, but this time we got the B team at best. Or possibly the B team of the B team. Is that a thing? Are there 2 levels of B team? Can we go a third? Who knows? The Space Marine dude we meet, for example, he's voiced by someone who'd not be out of place doing a bad fan dub. Our character sounds like a child trying to seem dark and edgy, talking about their murder boner constantly. In fact, most of the NPCs have that sort of thing to them. They're trying to sound dark and edgy and serious, but they're just dull to hear. The usual level of drama in the Warhammer voice acting just isn't here this time. It's too forced and cringy. I don't like it. The only one of the characters I really liked was the rogue ship captain because she sounded alright, not amazing, but she was the best of a bad situation. I do also still find it weird that men in Warhammer 40k get big bulky suits of armour and the women have to wear basically femdom outfits. But Phantus, how would they know they were women? Asks Warhammer as a franchise. Because a story can tell you this, because their pronouns can tell you this, because their voice might even be a giveaway. Hell, you could just write the character to be a woman, and it is a woman. Who cares if it looks like one or not? Look, I don't mind too much, but I love some of the armor designs in the Warhammer universe, these big, bulky, tank-like suits of armor. And I also like to play as women, but I don't get the really cool armor if I do this. I suppose this critique is less of the game and more of Warhammer in general. If you look at some of the models, this behaviour is repeated. Behaviour? That's the wrong word. This design is repeated. I don't know why I said behaviour, that was wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of lore that will tell me why I'm wrong for wanting heavily armoured women. Or I'm sure some of the fans could jump in and start telling me I'm an idiot. Who cares? The end of the video is coming, so we need to start wrapping things up as if these videos have a set runtime. Inquisitor Martyr is a decently fun game and one I still rather enjoyed. Its narrative I did not get that into, but I am sure more dedicated Warhammer fans will be happy with it. It seems like the sort of thing they'd like. It's a well-balanced game, it looks good, it ran well on both my PS4 and PS5 systems, and all in all I had fun, so I can recommend. The game does support local co-op. I didn't get to play it. It also has online multiplayer, which I couldn't play either. I never found a match, so I can't really comment on either of these. Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr is a pretty fun game and nice to look at. I don't think it's the best Warhammer video game ever made. I think that's a tie between Dawn of War 2 and Space Marine, but hell, I still had fun. Once again, the other channel that actually handles the lore in a way more competently than I could ever hope to do is in the description, so please check it out. I think they're pretty good at what they do. Take care all, and may the Emperor protect. Man, he must make really good condoms. Thanks for watching, be sure to check out the other content available on the channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. You can also support the channel on Patreon from as little as £1 a month. Check out the link in the description. Thanks in advance, and we'll see you next time.